But what we know is that what we've seen in recent times has not been normal. We saw the worst bushfires that our country has ever seen. You know, the idea that people would be cowering on beaches to escape flames, that our most iconic city would be shrouded in smoke, you know, not for days, for weeks, you know, and that was followed by the worst bushfires the United States has ever seen in California, followed by 1 in 50-year flood events. This is exactly what the scientists have been telling us would happen for decades. Now, the good news is that we can do something about it. You know, how we reduce our emissions, the rate at which we do it, will determine not only the type of environment we're going to leave behind, but the type of economy, the type of jobs, and the type of prosperity that we're going to enjoy. And the beauty of this is that there is no country on the planet better placed to take advantage of the opportunities that a low-carbon global economy will bring than Australia. Because we have some of the best wind resources. We've got some of the best renewable resources. We've got some of the best opportunities to create the green steel, the green aluminium, the green cement, the products that the world is going to need to help them achieve their objectives. Now, there's a few skeptics in this room here today. I'm looking at them right now, and they're shaking their head. And my message to you is you don't need to believe in climate change to believe in capitalism. And the reality is that today, right now, 70% of the world's GDP, or 70% of Australia's two-way trade, I should say, is now with countries that have committed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. So what does that mean for Australia? What does that mean for New South Wales? Let me tell you what it means. The markets and the countries that have underwritten our prosperity for generations are starting to shift the type of products that they're going to require to power their economies. So, you know, in the 50s and 60s, we rode on the sheep's back. We traded our way to prosperity through our agricultural products. In more recent times, we've traded our precious metals, our precious minerals, our coal here in New South Wales. That's underwritten our prosperity. Those markets that have underwritten our prosperity are changing. They're changing whether Alan Jones likes it or not. The reality is that 70% of Australia's two-way trade, 60% of the world's GDP has now committed to hit net zero emissions. So as I said, you don't need to believe in climate change to believe in capitalism. I'm not saying we should shut down our mining industry, far from it. I'm not saying we should stop exporting coal, far from it. I'm saying that we should continue to export our coal as long as those markets want it. But at the same time, understand that demand is shifting and we're really well placed to fill those new opportunities and provide the goods and services that the rest of the world will need. And we're already doing it. Mike Cannon-Brookes, you've ever heard of him? He's building a solar farm in the middle of the desert. 15 gigawatts of renewables in Katherine to take advantage of that stunning resource that we have, the sun. And he's building a cable from Katherine in the desert up to Singapore, where he'll provide 20% of Singapore's electricity needs. And he'll do it at a cheaper price than what they're currently getting it, and still make a profit on it. Now again, not doing it because he's some kind of greenie, doing it because he's a capitalist. Twiggy Forrest, I met with him recently, and you know what he said to me? He said to me, because of our energy roadmap here in New South Wales, that he's going to invest in this state. He's going to build 30 gigawatts of wind and solar here in New South Wales because of the market settings and the policy settings we've put in place to fulfill his vision to see renewables and hydrogen be bigger for his business than currently iron ore is. We would be mad to pass up this remarkable economic opportunity for our kids, their kids, and their kids. And that's what this is about. Now, we're doing this, business is doing this, finance is doing this, The community is doing this. What's standing in the way? Politicians. Politicians and vested interests who, instead of trying to build a stronger, more prosperous future, are trying to recreate the past. That's not what the Liberal Party's ever been about. We've always been about the future, building a better future for everyone. And that's what I'm focused on. And that's why recently, contrary to what some of you have heard on Sky News, that great authority on all things correct, I've legislated a plan that will ensure that we get a modern electricity system here in New South Wales. Not because we're trying to deal with climate change is the sole reason, but because I want to see New South Wales residents get access to the cheapest, most reliable and cleanest form of energy that will help our families, help our businesses, and set our industry up for success in that new world that's not coming. It's here. It's here now. And if you think it's a bad idea to be fighting for cheaper, reliable energy for New South Wales, well then let me tell you this. Rio Tinto doesn't think it's a bad idea. They said that my policies are going to lead to the next industrial revolution right here in New South Wales. Tomago, up in the Hunter, they said that my plan is the only way that they're going to keep open and be able to compete in the new world. BlueScope Steel down in the Illawarra, they have said that this will lead to a manufacturing renaissance here in New South Wales. Again, hardly woke greenies, capitalists, business people, employers, and manufacturers. That's what the Liberal Party should always be about. So this is a plan that will modernise our electricity system. It will give us access to some of the cheapest and most reliable energy anywhere in the world. And the benefit on top of that is it's going to be clean. And why does that matter? Because those businesses that are going to need to export internationally, that's the only way they're going to be able to compete. Okay? So this is a plan for the present. It's also a plan for the future. And it's not being driven by ideology. Ideology should have no place in energy policy. Energy policy should be driven by economics and engineering. Economics and engineering, that's what we've done. We've placed that at the heart of what we're doing. And what's driven our policy is how do we get the cheapest and most reliable form of electricity in the world. And our plan will see Australia, New South Wales get access to the second lowest electricity prices anywhere in the developed world. We'll get prices down below $50. What are you paying right now for wholesale electricity prices? I'll tell you what you're paying about $70 per megawatt hour. $70 per megawatt hour. All right? And for those people that want to talk about gas, let me tell you what the average gas wholesale price is. It's about at $120 per megawatt hour. For those that are interested in nuclear, it definitely may have a place in our energy mix in the future. But right now, the UK government is building a large-scale nuclear facility. It's called Hinkley Point C. And Hinkley Point C was started construction in 2008. It's not going to be ready until 2026. And the UK government is underwriting the cost of that electricity to the tune of $180 per megawatt hour. More than double that what we're currently paying. So those people arguing for nuclear, gas or coal are actually arguing for more expensive electricity. In some cases, in terms of coal, not clean, which means that our manufacturing businesses who use that technology won't be able to compete in that new world. Now, again, I'm not doing these things because I'm some woke greenie, contrary to what you hear on Sky News. I'm doing this because I'm economically rational. And why am I economically rational? Why are we going down this path? Well, let me tell you. In the next 15 years, 4 of our 5 coal-fired power stations are coming to the end of their technical lives. You know this, you've worked in the industry. 4 of our 5. Nothing to do with climate change, everything to do with the fact these are old pieces of equipment. They were built in the 70s and 80s. You would have seen Liddell shut down recently. Liddell is literally being held together with sticky tape. Every summer, every time it goes over about 28 degrees, I get a phone call from AEMO, the Australian Energy Market Operator, the people who operate our electricity system. And they say, Minister, you're going to have to go out on the TV and tell everyone to turn off their air conditioners and turn off their lights. Not because of renewables going to the system, because we're relying on generators that are old and they need to be replaced. And why haven't they been replaced? Because we haven't had the policy settings in place to encourage the market to build the generation, the storage, the transmission, and the infrastructure we need to upgrade things. They've been sitting on their hands because of the policy uncertainty that they've had over a long time. Whether it be because our government or the Liberals didn't support a carbon tax, or Liberals didn't support a national energy guarantee, we haven't had a national policy framework which would give the private sector the confidence they needed to invest their capital to upgrade the grid, which is desperately needed. Now, that's exactly what we've put in place, because we're Liberals. We believe in setting the playing field and letting the market decide. The alternative is what our opponents have always believed in: big government coming in, building the kit, and then managing it. We've just spent 20 years getting out of building electricity infrastructure. And now there are some people that call themselves conservatives wanting to get back in. I'm doing this because I'm a Liberal. I'm doing this because I'm economically rational. And I'm doing this because I believe we as Liberals should always be the party fighting for a better, stronger, and more prosperous country for everyone. Thank you very much.
Happy to take any questions. I hope so. And could you just introduce yourself as well when you ask a question for me? Yeah.
Yourself, yeah.
No,